Good day, ladies and gentlemen, and everything in between. My name is Dustin Cormier, and you're watching an episode of How to Rock Astrology. Today we're going to be discussing Libra Moon. This is part of my Moon and Venus series, where we're going to be talking about what your moon sign is and how your Venus sign relates to your moon. Today's episode in particular, as I said, we're talking about Libra Moon. What is it like when your moon is in Libra? Now, before we get into the moon in Libra, I'm just going to say a quick word about what the moon is. I often talk in this series. I'm going to make a breakdown of what the sun is, what Venus is, and what the moon is. Of course, the sun is our essential self-nature, the root of our love, the root of ourselves. And even the sun is important in considering relationships and astrology. The seventh from your sun is important. And this is, the seventh from your sun describes something about the nature of your central self and the kind of partner that you'd like to meet in a certain way. Now, the sun is its own thing, and Venus revolves around the sun. Venus is how we enjoy our sun's nature, ourselves, and our love. And Venus is going to get off on the sun as much as it can based on its health, its closeness to its exaltation in Pisces, and its general health in the chart. It's going to show how we enjoy the sun's nature, our essential nature. And it can only do so through the personality of the moon. The moon is the type of love that we seek to retrieve, which we therefore reflect. The moon shows how and why we retrieve it. I talk about the moon as the queen of the chart. The moon is the queen, whereas the sun is the king. The king is your essential nature, and it moves everything about, and it's what we do, as I like to say, in the afternoon. It's who we are. The sun is who we are from 9 a.m. until 5 p.m. It's the noon energy of what we do. But who we are, when we come home, we put down our things that we're doing with ourselves, and we involve our lives with the people around us, with our family, with our partner, with our lover. And this environment, this basin, this home, is the type of experience that we want to have with our lover, and it's the type of lover that, therefore, that we want to have. So we're going to talk about that throughout the series. Essentially, today I just wanted to give an idea of what I'm dealing with when I talk about the moon. Now we're going to go through four phases of what the moon in Libra is all about. 3 different books and then my own interpretation. And we're going to start with what I think about the moon in Libra. Essentially, I conduct a lot of my consciousness of this from where the moon is in relation to its exaltation point. In this case, the moon in Libra, we'll find that there's a frustrating element of the moon in Libra. It's described as coming off as having a masculine inner impulsion to the compulsion that we see as receptiveness, as trying to be nice, as trying to be diplomatic. Why is moon in Libra diplomatic? Because it's wanting to win the world over with its charming strategical mind. And make everything as easy as it possibly can by using just the right amount of force that's necessary. So there's a lot of thought about how much energy I should put into things, how much energy I should put into people, and how I should reciprocate my love, which is a funny thing when you consider that love is not always something that you necessarily want to make a deal about. Love is sometimes something that you want to bond on so that you aren't necessarily making a deal. Moon in Libra, you'll find that they think before, after a while they tend to think before they act. That is, at first they'll be very instinctive in their lives and they'll just do everything and try to please everybody, and the world tends to cave in on them before they realize that they have to they have to get a grip and move the world from that grip in a certain way. So the moon in Libra can have some even some insecurity. When you think about the fact that the moon in Libra, the moon itself is debilitated in Scorpio, Libra's second house. So the moon in Libra's own second house is debilitated as Scorpio, and that shows that moon in Libra has a little bit of an emotional second house, let's say, weakness, a lack of strength. And so the second house we know is our erotic abundance. It's how sexy we feel. It's the psychology, our childhood psychology of how sexy we have been allowed to feel. So if you got a good Mars, this will help moon in Libra apply itself so that it never has to second guess how it's coming off, because it's experimenting with it actively. And this can save that insecure second house of moon in Libra in a lot of ways. It tends to do it through partnerships, because Libra, the opposite of Libra is Aries. So relationships can help to, relationships are the channel necessary for Libra moon to, well, it's the channel that decides whether Libra moon has security internally or not. And so a good Mars will help Libra moon a lot. But ultimately, the moon is debilitated in Scorpio, so there's an insecurity in the moon. Whereas Libra moon does better when it's dealing in groups, really. When it is using its love with its partner to communicate in a social way, so that its partner kind of helps bolster up the moon in Libra, makes them feel like they have something to latch themselves onto in order to express from within themselves the security they'd like to have. It's because Taurus is exalted in the 8th house. Things to think about. There's lots of ways to interpret this esoterically. But because the moon is so close to Scorpio, ultimately there is a signature of, remember, I always say, planets' debilitation work by proximity, not by sign. You're not out of the neck of the woods just because moon is in Libra and not in Scorpio. It's close to Scorpio, so it's still technically a little bit debilitated. Now, whether this ultimately expresses with difficulty, it depends on the strength of the moon, depends on the aspects going towards the moon, it depends on the Shadbala and ultimately all these things, and it also depends on the health of Venus. Of course, Venus's placement is important to moon in Libra because Venus is the thing that moon in Libra uses to secure its position as a bonded lover or contributor to all of its relationships. It needs to use Venus in order to get what it needs, because the moon is describing what this person needs. The moon in Libra kind of needs relationships in a lot of ways. It develops internal security, most especially through relationships, which does suggest that it's good for the moon in Libra person to develop on its sense of independence. Ironically, if your moon is very ill-placed, you won't... Ultimately, moon in Libra needs to have a partner there to be the reflective challenge to develop independence. If you're trying to be a wrestler and you got no one to wrestle with, you're not going to become the greatest wrestler because you're just going to try and wrestle with yourself and you don't have something to, a rubric, a standard outside of yourself to say that you are a good wrestler. In the same way, if you want to be a person who has independence, in context to what? You will typically try and get in relationships in order to develop independence, ironically. 7th house from your moon is Aries. Astrology is so psychedelic sometimes, So despite the fact that this moon is close to Scorpio, if it's well placed and has strength and help, then it can ultimately do what it does in this serviceful way and be really a wonderful lover who does put a lot of intent into being a pleaser of everybody and being recognized as that pleaser of everybody. And you can get good security this way. It's a very active type of security, which is again part of the difficulty here. If you feel like you have to serve in order to be loved and bonded by your lover, it's not a good thing. I know that's how you seek to unfold your bliss, and that's not a bad thing, just so long as, how shall I say, just so long as your service to your partner is for the mutual goodness in the relationship and not because you feel like your partner won't be with you if you don't serve them. Moon in Libra is somebody who's romantic and likes to really feel like they're two peas in a pod with their partner. There's a pocket there that you both share as a groove. And if your partner, if you need to really, if you are ever in a period where you can't do anything with your partner, and your partner's like, oh, wow, this happens? I didn't realize that. Now I don't want to be with you. Then you'll realize that lover might not be really for you. They're just using you for your sweet way of instinctively doing things for people and presenting that you would like to do things for people. Ultimately, a good lover for you will show signs that they care for you more than just because of what you do for them. I could go on about it. You'll hear me talk a bit more about my intuition of this sign when we get into the Moon and Venus series. For now, let's go through our books and discuss a little bit more of some other authors' opinion on this sign. First, we're going to talk about Astrology, a Cosmic Science by Isabelle M. Hickey. This is a good classic text from the 60s that's kind of like a Western perspective that's kind of nicely esoteric. Isabelle Hickey is someone who really combs through the archetypal bones of the signs and the planets in the signs. So you'll see what I mean. This is Moon in Libra by Isabelle M. Hickey. Moon in Libra are gentle people. There's an elusive sweetness masking an inherently masculine strength. This is the funky theme with Moon in Libra, is that they seem like, it's kind of like a hard wooden bat with a drape of silk. And everybody sees this drape of silk, and you follow it, and you touch it, and it's, oh, this beautiful thing. And whoa, what is this? It's this hard, rigid object within it. I mean, ultimately, your soul deeply is even just watery softness within that, but there is an object that's trying to grip its capacity to be sweet. Ambitious, but dependent too. And this is a very interesting thing. This is just more astrology connection conscious for you. For the Moon in Libra, home ties are very important. And they're a funky, difficult issue. The reason is because when you think about it, Cancer in the zodiac is naturally opposite what? Capricorn. So Capricorn is going to be an important dimension, and therefore Saturn is going to be an important dimension of how the Moon in Libra assimilates emotions and a sense of home, because Capricorn is the fourth sign from Libra. So there's a struggle for Libra between career and home. It makes sense that it's the opposite of Aries, who has the same struggle but inverted. And there is an emphasis, especially for the Moon in Libra, to be somebody who, again, is trying to serve in a 10th house way. But the 4th house is what Saturn actually has been doing to sculpt a sense of home that does not need to be performed for. So if you've got a good Saturn, you will find ways to bond with your lovers, not just for what you do, but also for what you've invested your time into building with your partners. If you don't have a good Saturn, then it's going to be very difficult for you to really feel like you've done bonding ways of bonding to your lover together through difficulty. If you don't have a good Saturn, when things get hairy, you have difficulty and you might not make it through the hardest parts of your relationship without bruising or feeling frustrated or sensitive or feeling like your lover's going to leave you or all this kind of stuff. But if Libra Moon has a good Saturn, this will deeply help its ability to develop the home, the emotional home that it wants to have with its partner. So ultimately, the Capricorn ruling the 4th house of Libra shows that home ties are important. Saturn represents the basic need. For it to be the 4th house of Libra shows that the moon has a basic need to bond through Saturn in a certain way. So, coming back to just general moon and Libra consciousness, there's an unconscious motivation in moon and Libra to be undisturbed by any friction. But peace at any price is hard to achieve because of the masculinity of Libra. It's like there's a cardinal backbone in Libra, and it's this desire to find peace internally can cramp the whole system, and this is why moon and Libra people need to meditate and find a sense of their own independence at some point. This is what you're trying to integrate, is the moon in Aries. The masculinity of Libra, once you master it, is as natural as the soft part because it's in balance. And then, your peace at any price is less difficult to achieve because you're willing to be soft and move with things. Of course, Libra developed hardness because it was soft first. It's a funny thing that Libra has to just find in balance between the past and the future. Moon in Libra has this funny, certain need to integrate dualities in this way. Now, this person is not apt to stand up for a principle if Mars is not strong, because they want to be liked by everyone, and so they are apt to be all things to all people. That makes sense to me. So, of course, like I said, Mars and Libra should have their own sense of Mars, because that would develop the security of their 2nd house to be able to have a sense of dependence. If your Mars is weak, you have no 2nd house, and you're going to be all things to all people, but no one to yourself in a certain way. So, if Mars is afflicted to the moon, if Mars is hitting the moon in a painful way, that's essentially what's being said here. If Mars is afflicted to the moon, this person will fight blindly rather than intelligently. Interesting. There's a need for purification where motives are concerned in the moon in Libra. They need to be honest with themselves as well as with others. If this is in a male chart, this person will attract a positive type of female that will want to run the ship. This is because the moon is generally the romantic, even passionate, and at some level erotic nature vibe that a male tends to seek. But it does it typically through the opposite for the most part, in the sense of the 7th house. So think about that. If you're a male with the moon in Libra, you attract a positive type of female that will want to run the ship. That's something an Aries would do, right? So that you can kind of be the passive person who rubs all the jagged edges of your lover's intense personality while still reining them in. It's a common really for all moon and Libra people at some level, but more so for men seeking that woman who's strong and runs the ship. So that was Isabelle M. Hickey. Now, she often gives these cool esoteric dimensions of her sign readings. Now I'm going to kind of get into a little bit more of a interpersonal level of what is the moon in Libra consciousness generally. The first layer of this superficial, fun sort of conversation we're going to get from Stephen Rowe's Chart Interpretation Handbook. What we're looking for is interpretive guidelines for the moon in Libra. Of course, we know that any planet in the sign of Libra is kind of colored by the qualities of balance, impartiality, and tact. This is something that every planet takes on by being in Libra. So, let's check out interpretive guidelines for the moon in Libra. Stephen Arroyo tells us that the sign position of the moon shows how one reacts based on subconscious disposition, i.e., the person that you've always subconsciously been, the people that you've always subconsciously attracted yourself to ever since you were born, due to the lunar, earthbound situation of your childhood. I always like to say, Venus floats around the sun. Venus is showing us how we have affection at a spiritual outgoing level. The moon revolves around the earth. It's a different, it's coming from the situation of our life circumstantially through childhood. So, this moon in Libra personality needs to express itself through this consciousness in order to develop on Earth the person that it wants to be. Interpretive guidelines for the moon in Libra. Moon in Libra reacts with objectivity, not thinking about the individual subjects, but reacts with objectivity to the environment and all experiences with a strongly developed sense of fairness. Like, what's the operation? What are we all doing here? Although Moon in Libra can be sensitive and compassionate to anybody who is obviously lacking or has a disability, for example. This is the kind of person who says, there's that classic thing with there's a fence and 3 different holes in the fence, and the small person can't get to it, and the medium-sized person can't, and then the tall person can't. And then they said, this is like what equality is, I think. And then it shows the middle-sized person lifting up the small-sized person, and then it shows the big person lifting up the middle-sized person, and then this is like actual fairness. I shouldn't be going off on this because I don't have it exactly burned in my brain, but the idea is that Moon in Libra can be objective in the sense of this is a fair operation, a fair competition, but then they can also be like, if you're out on a camping trip with a Moon in Libra and somebody breaks their leg and everybody's walking and this person's got a bummed leg, the Moon in Libra will be kind of like, okay guys, let's take a break here. Tommy over here is dying, we're all... the fairest thing is for us to all chill. If any of us had broken a leg, I would be saying the same thing and you'd be happy too. So let's chill, Whereas if somebody's being a whiny baby in competition because they lost, Moon and come on, dude, we're all in the same game here. Stop being a baby, There's a strongly developed sense of fairness, typically, especially when the Venus is strong. Moon in Libra thinks before reacting. Interesting. They weigh all sides of a situation, and this can contribute to indecisiveness and also sluggishly losing your ability to progress in life, because you try to, as we're going to read, you try to please everybody and don't end up pleasing yourself sometimes. We're either going to read it here or in the next reading. Ultimately, Moon in Libra thinks before reacting, weighs all sides, and this contributes to indecisiveness. Moon in Libra, they find balance and harmonization of polarities is necessary for emotional tranquility. They are eager to please and see the other's point of view and find a resolution between the two thoughts. The Moon in Libra feels secure when they're involved in close relationships, and they're uncomfortable when being alone for a long time. That is when they feel most secure, when they feel like, in a way, that they're the most themselves. It's when they're a part of somebody else. This can lead to an inability to wait for the right lover for you. If you've got a good moon, you'll sense the importance of having the right lover for you, and you will be patient and you will wait until you can seductively call it out of the universe, rather than that impatient, insecure masculinity, quote unquote, this hard, rigid thing needs to have the security now. If you let that beat you, then you won't be patient and be discerning and meet your heart with your mind and find a lover that's really good for you. Moon in Libra has an emphasis on gracious demeanor. And this emphasis on gracious demeanor can inhibit spontaneity of emotional reactions and real intimacy. This has to do with the fact of that Cancer being in the 10th house in a funny sort of way. And the gracious demeanor is all very nice, so long as it is not interrupting your ability to truly come from the heart and be in a situation. So we find a lot of Moon in Libra people end up having yogic tendencies of being interested in exploring the chakras. I have some friends who have the Moon in Libra who have this kind of intense sensitivity of their metaphysical systems and their chakras. And this is necessary to start becoming from the heart in any situation, because when you come from your heart, you're thinking about the person and the situation outside of yourself as well as your own needs at the same time. Because the world of ideas in the 6th and 5th chakra are meeting with the lower chakras of your needs at the heart chakra. And this kind of consciousness is something that might be useful for anybody who has the Moon in Libra. Something to consider. Now, that was also some good stuff. The final reading I'd like to go through is from a book that you're going to see me going through in this series. It's called Erotic Astrology by Phyllis Vega. It's a nice little book that gives a pretty roundabout, sort of the typical interpretation of a sign that you would hear in like most YouTube videos. I like to put it out here and add my little spiel to it if I can. So this is Erotic Astrology, talking about the Moon in Libra. Luna Libra's zodiacal role is that of mediator and peacemaker. Given your strong need for harmony and approbation, some may consider you an easy target. However, despite your amiability and aversion to disputes, you're no pushover. Instead of arguing, you get all the facts, and you use your tact and diplomacy to sway potential combatants and win them over to your point of view. The dark side of this moon sign manifests as procrastination and fence-sitting. You're so good at weighing the merits of each side of an argument that you find it impossible to come to a concrete conclusion, sometimes. This may make you appear wishy-washy, but the truth is that you hate to think your decision would cause distension and disharmony in any way. You want to please everyone, but ultimately you must realize that it's impossible to be all things to all people. So keep in mind the necessary need to develop your own sense of Mars, to develop your masculine instincts, whether you're a woman or a man or anything in between. So you have the capacity to demand your needs, to understand the importance of your needs, and to do it in a way, practice it from the heart consistently, so that you never need to impulsively try to push people to read you. Because I know the Moon in Libra loves to read people and to read a room and to understand what everybody else wants in the situation. People don't do that like you do. So sometimes you got to come right out and say it. And that's why your 7th house is Aries in some way. You're going to interact with people by often just coming right out and say it. And they will learn, after you have patience with them, to have an appreciation for the way that you pick up on their thing if you are discerning and invest yourself in a lover that really cares for you and that you really care about. I hope this is helpful. I'm Dustin Cormier for How to Rock Astrology. I love doing this stuff for you guys. Stay tuned. You're going to be seeing me talking about the Moon in Libra with all of the 12 possible combinations of Venus. Moon in Libra with Venus in Aries. Moon in Libra with Venus in Taurus, etc. That's going to be coming up in the next episodes. And you can watch it, in this series, in this playlist on YouTube. Thanks for watching, folks. Next time.